Hello everybody, today we're going to continue the Infinite Jest video series and we're picking up on page 109. This is November 3rd, Year That Depends Adult Undergarment. So we are picking up where we previously left off before the meeting between Maroth and Steeply in the desert. So this was after the Einfield Tennis Academy students had a really long day at tennis practice. And so after all the students in the previous section talked about how they're physically taxed, we start to understand how all of this training and overtraining perhaps is affecting all of their mental states. And we learn that some of them are falling out of their love of tennis and their thoughts on whether or not they want to stay at Einfield Tennis Academy and keep doing this forever, because there's a point here where one of the younger students is talking about how, you know, he sees people that have been here longer than he has and they look miserable. And so he starts to question, you know, why is it worth it? Why do we do all this? We know that there's only a 1 in 20 shot of becoming a pro tennis player going to the show. So why do we do it? And, you know, I think that all of these students, the more taxed they get physically, they start to have these doubts about, why do I do it? There's only a 1 in 20 chance, you know, that they start getting discouraged. And as they're all complaining about how physically sore they are and how, you know, they have no time left in the day to enjoy for themselves, Hal brings up the point, which is, why do we have this 45-minute time to just converse amongst ourselves? Their whole day is chock full of training from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed. Why does the Einfield Tennis Academy actually structure into their schedule this 45-minute chunk of time? And Hal is starting to think that there's an ulterior motive that the school has for this 45-minute chunk of time, which is that all the students get together and form a common enemy. And this common enemy is essentially the headmaster and the tennis coaches and the prorectors, who all tell the students, you know, work harder, push yourself further. And they're the ones dictating the physical toll these students have to experience. And so he says, well, why would they give us this time to all bitch together? Well, because they essentially, when they all complain together, they form a community. And this community is important because they want to prevent the loneliness of essentially training, because tennis is an individual sport. At the end of the day, they are always around their other students, but they're the ones that want to go to the show, and the main people that are between you getting into the show or not are the people around you. So this sense of community, in a way, is preventing people from ripping out each other's throats. And so that's where we get this time throughout this chapter with all the students talking. And we get to see a wide range of mental states that these students are going through. Some are, you know, happy with where they're at. You know, they keep listening to what the headmaster and the tennis coaches say, and they take it without any grain of salt. And then others, you know, start to have some doubts. And then others, you know, they're like, why am I here? You know, why would I even want to do all of this? So you have the whole range here. And so where we're at here is that we have all of these big buddies. So we have all of Hal's class essentially meet with a handful of little buddies who are younger in the program, and they all separate into different VR viewing rooms, and they discuss, whatever they want to the little buddies. It can be on topic or off topic, but you get insight into what the big buddy's state of mind is. And so obviously Hal is talking about loneliness and killing loneliness, and that's a big factor for Hal, and it's one of the reasons he resorts to drug use, is because he uses that as a release for his loneliness. John Wayne, who is ranked number 2 continentally in the 18-year-old age bracket, he actually has a waiting list for his little buddies. And John Wayne, you can tell, is really got his eye on the show. He listens, and it seems like he truly believes what the Einfield Tennis Academy is telling him about how it's less skill than temperament, and it's really a game about mastering and conquering yourself, mastering your fears. When you get to a plateau, not being satisfied, not just being okay with your deficiencies in the game, but you have to address your deficiencies head on. So he's actually giving good advice to his little buddies. And then there's a great character, Michael Pemulis, and he's essentially playing a shell game with his his students, and he is trying to win money off of them, essentially. So like I said, this can be a little bit off topic from tennis, and I think it just gives insight to Pemulis. One doesn't care to be a big buddy, a good big buddy, and but in a way, he's enjoying himself, which if he doesn't have to talk about tennis and he still enjoys himself, that's a win. And then there's another interesting lesson with Ted Schacht, and he's teaching his little buddies how to floss. So it's just really funny. I don't really know what that means as far as your mental state. I think it's clear to say he's got other topics on his mind besides tennis. And then there's Troeltsch, who also reiterates the importance of repetitive motions. And he says, don't question the repetitive motions. You want to get the mechanics down, and then you want to have never think about the mechanics. And you want to then just concentrate on really controlling your own thoughts, not letting the negativity come in, not letting, those thoughts that I'm slipping up in this game come to you. So really all the concentration is off the game, but it's really on, your internal psyche. And then last, there's a funny interaction where you have Struck, and he gets a question about what happens if you have to fart during a game, and then the little buddy says, well, what if it's more than a fart? So this chapter, it's not too consequential, but there's some funny stuff in here for sure. And then you kind of have the most radical state of mind with the darkness ortho, and he's talking about how he starts talking to his little buddies in German. And obviously the Einfield Tennis Academy head coach has some German background. And so he is basically idolizing the tennis coach. And he even says at one point that he would eat fiberglass for the man. So yeah, there's just a lot of states of mind. And the character we followed most, Hal, he seems to be on the most negative end of the spectrum. Yeah, at least negative insofar as he's drifted the furthest away from what the Einfield Tennis Academy wants you to believe in, which is, don't question what you're said or what you're told, just do what we tell you, and control your temperament. And with him questioning the schedule, thinking that the Einfield Tennis Academy has ulterior motives, and also his uncontrolled loneliness and drug use, he really is starting to go down, away from the ideology of the school. And as we end the chapter, we see that Hal, it kind of comes out of nowhere, but Hal has a twinge in his tooth, on his mouth's left side. And this comes out of nowhere. The only thing that we have to understand from this is that we've actually had quite a bit of mouth-related discussion in this book, even in the first 100 pages, where, as I mentioned, Ted Schecht was talking about properly flossing in this chapter. And then we had the medical attaché who was attending to his client who only ate Toblerones, and he had kind of yeast and sores in his mouth because of his diet. So maybe it connects to those other parallels, but as of right now, we don't know much. But that is where we're going to end up. So it's kind of just a fun little section to understand how this physical and emotional draining can change these students' states of mind. So we will start at page 121 next time. Thank you.